So The Charge of the Light Brigade is a narrative poem inspired by a real-life tragedy. Tennyson wrote the poem after reading a newspaper account of a battle that occurred during the Crimean War. The Crimean War was fought between Russia and a group of nations that included Great Britain. On October 25th, 1854, at Balaclava in southern Ukraine, a British cavalry unit called the Light Brigade, armed only with swords, was ordered to charge the Russian gunners. As the poem begins, Tennyson describes the Light Brigade riding toward the Russian artillery. Russia eventually lost the war. I'm going to break this down for just 1 second. What is a cavalry unit? What does that mean? They are on horses. They are armed only with swords. So this is just a little bit before the Civil War, or 1850s, right? Kind of that in-between time between fighting with swords and fighting with cannons and guns. But they're been ordered to charge the Russian gunners. So what are they against? Not only Russia, but also, is it just swords or? Guns. They're against guns. You guys are very quiet. I can't hear you. Does that sound fair? No. No. So that's what this is going to detail. And although it tells us that Russia eventually lost the war, that's the side with the guns and the cannons, we can probably predict how this battle might end. Who do you think's going to win, the guns or the swords? Swords. Yeah, we'll see. It's actually a little surprising, but not totally. All right, let's take a look on the right-hand side, the green part where we see sound devices. Can I have somebody read that for us? Thank you, Katie.
Poetry is meant to be read aloud. In the poem you're about to read, the poet uses short lines and phrases to create a fast-paced rhythm, or beat, as he describes the sights and sounds of the battle. Half a league, half a league, half a league onward. All in the valley of death rode the 600. Read the poem aloud several times and listen to the poem's rhythm. There's examples of rhyme, a likeness of sounds at the ends of words, such as in shell and fell, and the repetition of words and phrases. Be aware of how such sound devices contribute to the poem's overall impact.
Okay, so we will read it several times. I'll read it out loud to you, and then we're going to break it down to do some things in our note sheet, so we'll be hearing it several times. Then down at the bottom, can I have somebody else read the part about it being a narrative poem? Thank you, Maddox.
The Charge of the Light Brigade is a narrative poem, that is, one that tells a story, like a short story. This type of poem has a plot, a setting, and characters.
Okay, and in our worksheet, not necessarily the notebook, we're going to break it down and go through those things. All right, so if you would turn the page, let's take a look at the poem. It's pretty long, but not quite as long as the Paul Revere. And follow along with me while I read. The Charge of the Light Brigade by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Half a league, half a league, half a league onward, all in the valley of death rode the 600. Forward the Light Brigade, charge for the guns, he said. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Forward the Light Brigade. Was there a man dismayed? Not that the soldier knew someone had blundered. There's not to make reply, there's not to reason why, there's but to do and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Cannon to right of them, cannon to left of them, cannon in front of them, volleyed and thundered. Stormed at with shot and shell, boldly they rolled and well, into the jaws of death, into the mouth of hell, rode the 600. Flashed all their sabers bare, flashed as they turned in air, sabering the gunners there. Charging an army, while all the world wondered. Plunged in the battery smoke, right through the line they broke. Cossack and Russian reeled from the saber stroke, shattered and sundered. Then they rode back, but not the 600. Cannon to right of them, cannon to left of them, cannon behind them, volleyed and thundered. Stormed at with shot and shell, while horse and hero fell, they that had fought so well came through the jaws of death, back from the mouth of hell, all that was left of them, left of 600. When can their glory fade? Oh, the wild charge they made, all the world wondered. Honor the charge they made, honor the Light Brigade, noble 600. Okay, so we're going to go to our worksheet here at the top. If you did not already, please make sure you fill out the heading. I'm going to collect this at the end of class. And we're going to start with the comprehension check before we go back and break it down. What was the result of the battle? What happened? Say it again. The Russians with the guns won the battle? Sure. Anything else we want to add to that? What happened to the Light Brigade? Do we know? Some of them survived and retreated, right? Some of them died heroes. Yep. So please make sure that you give me complete sentence there about what you think. So the result of the battle, the Russians won, Light Brigade retreated, many died heroes. And can you tell me, how does the poet want the soldiers to be remembered? Sorry.
Brave.
Brave. Yeah, he wants us to think of them as brave. Okay, the next part of our worksheet we see is about the plot. So it tells us, narrative poem tells a story. Charge of the Light Brigade is a narrative poem, therefore it tells a story. It contains the same plot elements as fiction. So we're going to go through the poem stanza by stanza, filling in each element of plot, starting with the exposition. Remember, the exposition would be the beginning of the story. It introduces our characters and our setting, and also the problem a little bit. So let's take a look at the first stanza again. The first stanza says, half a league, half a league, half a league onward. Notice the footnote, the number 1 next to the word league. Down at the bottom, it says a distance of 3 miles. So if they're traveling half of 3 miles, how far do they have to go? A mile and a half. Good. Okay, so we get a little bit of the information here. All in the Valley of Death rode the 600. Forward the Light Brigade, charge for the guns, he said. Into the Valley of Death rode the 600. So there's our charge, our order from whoever's in charge. So with the exposition, we find out who, that's our Light Brigade, right? We find out our where and our why. So the Light Brigade is being ordered to charge the guns. They're riding into the Valley of Death, and it takes a mile and a half to get there. Okay, so a sentence or two to explain everything I just said there. So the Light Brigade has been ordered to charge for the guns. They have to travel a mile and a half to get to the Valley of Death. Sounds like a fun place to go, right? Although I think that's probably a term Tennyson came up with to rename that particular valley. As we get into the rising action, those are going to be the problems that are going to build up to the most exciting part of the poem. So we're going to take a look at stanza 2. Forward the Light Brigade. Was there a man dismayed? Meaning, was anybody upset about this order? Not though the soldier knew someone had blundered. What does that mean, that somebody blundered? What is that? Well, somebody did tell him, but what does the blunder mean? Have you heard that before?
I think it's like falsely like advertising this as like we're kind of like bluff.
Okay, yeah, it basically means that somebody made a mistake. Okay, can you recognize that this would be a mistake, telling the swords to go against the guns? Yes. Okay. Theirs not to make reply. This is the soldiers. It is not their job to question authority, right? If they're told to do something, they don't reply, they just do it. Theirs not to reason why. Even though some of them in their head are probably thinking, oh my goodness, they're sending me to my death. It is not their place to think that through and question it. It is their job to do and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600. So as we get into our first number 1 under rising action, we're going to put down that somebody made a mistake ordering the swords to charge against the guns. So somebody made a mistake ordering the swords to charge against the guns, but it is not the soldier's place to question. They just follow orders. All right, this next stanza is when I always show off my beautiful artwork. Don't pick on me. Okay, so we have stanza 3. We see cannon to right of them, cannon to left of them, cannon in front of them, volleyed and thundered. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a visual. All right, they're in a valley. This is my terrible artwork. Okay, can you picture it? We've got mountains on either side. They're running through the valley. Okay, so they're charging this way, 1.5 miles. There is a line of soldiers in front of them with cannons and guns that they are charging towards. But they are also up on the mountains. So as they are charging, they're being fired upon from the right, from the left, and in the front. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's that first part, that they're being fired upon from all angles. Volleyed and thundered. We have a footnote on the word volleyed. Fired a rapid series of shots. Thundered, can you imagine the echo in the valley of the cannons? It's got to be horrible. Stormed at with shot and shell. Boldly they rode and well. Into the jaws of death. Into the mouth of hell rode the 600. So our second rising action is going to be that the Light Brigade is being fired upon from all sides, but they continue to charge. So the Light Brigade is being fired upon from all sides, but they continue to charge. You're daydreaming. Thank you. All right, as we get into the next stanza, we're actually going to break this into two parts. We're going to have our last rising action event, and it's going to also be our climax. And I'm not sure if you caught, as I read it the first time, how impressive this really is. So the first half of the stanza says, flashed all their sabers bare. Clarify for me what a saber is. That's their sword. Okay, flashed as they turned in air, sabering the gunners there, charging an army while all the world wondered. What does this mean? Are they actually fighting? Yeah, if they flash their sabers, so first of all, they're out, sabering the gunners, they're actually slashing at the people who are firing upon them. That's pretty impressive. So that's our third one. We're going to put that the Light Brigade has begun to fight. Did you think they'd even have a chance to? I didn't, but they do. All right, then as we continue, we have plunged in the battery smoke. So that would be the smoke from the cannons and the guns, especially back then. There was a lot of smoke with it. They're actually going through it, right through the line they broke. Cossack and Russian reeled, and they're like falling over, being killed from the saber stroke. Shattered and sundered. Shattered and, well, sundered means to break apart, to split into pieces. And we see up above that, they broke through the line. They have so this line that's in front of them, they have managed to break through it. And they're in here, they're all fighting. You see, really good artwork, right? But you get the idea. That's pretty exciting. That's our climax. That they have broken through the enemy line. The Light Brigade has, so climax. Down here. The Light Brigade has broken through the enemy line and is killing some of the Russians. But the end of this also takes us into our falling action. When you're set there, flip the page. Falling action and resolution. Okay, the last two lines of that stanza, we see that then they rode back, but not the 600. And as we continue into the next part, we have cannon to right of them, cannon to left of them, cannon behind them. So what's happening here? My arrows are changing directions. They are retreating. So that is our falling action. That the Light Brigade is retreating. And they didn't all make it. Of course, Jace had to look up the statistics, though, to find out how many actually died. And the numbers are actually not as high as you would think. There was only like 100 and some that died out of the 600. And then there were 100 and some that were injured. And then some of those did die from their injuries later on. So if you think about it, out of 600, about 2/3 of them actually survived. Which is kind of impressive for the battle that it is. And then we just need our resolution, right? We have stormed at with shot and shell, while horse and hero fell. They that had fought so well came through the jaws of death, back from the mouth of hell. All that was left of them, left of 600. When can their glory fade? Oh, the wild charge they made. All the world wondered. Honor the charge they made. Honor the Light Brigade, noble 600. So what would the resolution be? How did the conflict in our poem resolve? So the falling action is that they've retreated. And now is our resolution. Honor some of them as heroes. It's not really it's more of a moral here, right? Not all of them made it back. Oh. We kind of put that in the following action, didn't we? The not all made it back. Yeah. They kind of, a lot of times your following action and your resolution do tie together. Better erase the evidence with my beautiful artwork. Yes.
I feel bad for the horses. They did nothing
Oh.
wrong.
Yeah, actually, they looked that up. More horses died than people. Yeah, that part is really sad. There's over 300 horses that died.
Most people ran back, had to run back, or got drives.
Yeah, yep,
The horses did nothing wrong.
I know. Yeah. All right, we're going to skip down to the bottom of that page. So skip over. So we have sound devices. We're going to come back to that and then go down to theme. We'll do the theme together. Remember that theme is the message that the poet is trying to send or help us understand. What do you think the poet's point is? What is he saying to us?
Like facing the odds, but still coming out on top.
Okay,
Well, not really.
yeah. Yeah, something along those lines of bravery and facing challenges and still being able to survive. Sure. Other ideas? Yeah, go ahead.
Perseverance.
Okay, and make sure you add on to it because so like what bravery and perseverance are topics. So you're right, perseverance. If you want to add to it, the idea of pushing through, like how does it pay off? Add that lesson in there. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. Other ideas? Remember, lots of possibilities for themes. You just want to be able to support it with what's in here. It's important to honor war heroes. I don't know. Yep.
Face challenges even when you feel like you can't.
Oh, sure. Face challenges even when you feel like you can't. That's a good one. Good. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the rest of what you can work on during class today, and I'm going to touch on all of it now so it's in the recording, and then I can stop the recording and you guys can work, okay? So the first thing is finishing up the sound devices, and then this worksheet I am going to collect from you today, and those of you that are remote, you need to make sure that this paper comes to the office and gets turned in to me. There is not a spot on Teams to turn that in. So the sound devices, first it asks you to identify 4 examples of rhyme in the Charge of Light Brigade. That should be pretty easy. There's lots of rhyme. And you do just need to list the words together. You can separate them with a hyphen. And then the second example, identify 4 examples of repetition. In Charge of Light Brigade, we have words, we have phrases, we have lines that are repeated. Write down the ones that are repeated multiple times in the poem. The third one, identify 4 examples of alliteration. Remember, alliteration is a repetition of beginning consonant sounds. This is sort of the challenging one because there are exactly 4 examples and you're looking for 2 words in a line. Okay, so it's not like there's a really long, easy example like Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Instead, you're going to find one line that has 2 words that start with that alliteration. Okay, question 4 does need to be a complete sentence. How does the rhyme, repetition, alliteration of the Charge of Light Brigade affect you as a reader? So when you look at all of those together, how did that impact the poem? How did that affect you and help you understand it better? Okay. The other thing I want to go over is page 200. So in your book, if you would please turn over to page 200. So after the poem, okay, so what I want to point out is you're going to be typing your answers into a Word document and attaching it to Teams, but you're using the questions in the book. Question 1 has multiple parts. And this is the part that we always struggle to remember. So notice there's the what do you think? There's one question there. And then on the other side, there's a column that's the comprehension check. And there are 3 bullets. You have to answer all 4 of those questions, each one with at least 1 sentence. Okay? 2 through 6 are your think critically, and these are where you're going to base them on the poem. These are going to be like mini ACE answers. I want you to restate the question into your topic sentence where you give an answer. Give me at least 1 text detail. If you can give me more, that's great, but in poetry, sometimes it's harder. And you need to explain it. So 2 through 6 really need to be 2 to 3 sentences long or longer. And we are going all the way to number 9. So 7 through 9, these are extend interpretations, and a lot of these are you're thinking about it. Okay, these are, so you don't have to necessarily include text details in 7 through 9, but you need to explain your answer. So you've got to give me your thought and explain your thoughts, support why you think that. So at least 2 sentences for 7 through 9 as well. Any questions on page 200? Okay, so page 200 is due next week. But if you have time during class time today, you can get started on that. Okay? Any questions for me? All right. So those of you at home, I'm going to stop the recording. And you can stay in the meeting if you want to. If you have any questions, you're welcome to, hang on, the recording is not working for me. Stop that. Okay,